tungo sa pagkumpleto at maayos na pagpapatupad ng prosesong pangkapayapaan.
A few weeks after the massacre of the 44 Special Action Force commandos and the death of dozens of rebels and at least 5 civilians, the nation is still in a state of shock, while families of the victims continue to cry for justice. A different President Aquino faced the nation in his recent primetime speech.
Ako ang ama ng bayan at 44 sa aking mga anak ang nasawi. Hindi na sila maibabalik. Nangyari ang trahedya sa ilalim ng aking panunungkulan. Dadalhin ko po hanggang sa huling mga araw ko ang pangyayari ito.
Despite the admission of his responsibility, some social-civic, militant, and church groups hold President Aquino responsible and call for his resignation.
Hindi po kami terrorist ang MILF.
Ano ba itong overkill na to na ginawa niyo sa mga tao ko?
Ilang beses mo nakausap si Presidente Aquino tungkol sa impending operation?
Once, Your Honor.
Once. Tama na yun sa iyo. Minsan lang, alam mo na lahat.
During the Senate inquiry, Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago also asked the Defense Department on the alleged threats of coup d'etat.
The social media is rife with gossip that there should be a coup d'etat.
As far as coup d'etat is concerned, it will entail the support of the military, and we are very confident that the military will not be involved in this coup d'etat, Your Honor.
The supporters of President Aquino, however, said that it is now more than ever that the country needs a leader like Aquino, and that stepping down will cause more harm than good to the country. Welcome to Opposing Views, a hard, straightforward discussion of today's most pressing issues. Should President Aquino resign over the Mamasapano massacre? That's our debate question for tonight. Good evening, I'm Rod Mamasapano, and this is Opposing Views. All right, joining us tonight is Senator Antonio Trillanes IV. Good evening, Senator Trillanes.
Good evening, Rod.
Yeah, you're not new to making calls for a president to resign, but in this case, do you think, what is your position on this?
The Mamasapano incident is tragic, but the president is not liable for it, and therefore he should not resign.
All right, thank you very much. And on the opposing side is Vencer Crisostomo, chairperson of Anak Bayan. His group is one of those pushing for President Aquino's resignation. Why Vencer?
We now know that President Aquino was involved directly in the planning, implementation, and monitoring of the Mamasapano offensive, which led to the deaths of more than 70 Filipinos, so 7 civilians at least, 18 MLF fighters, and of course the 44 SAF members. And we feel that he betrayed the nation by pursuing such offensive, deliberately disregarding the chain of command, appointing a kabarkada, which is a suspended PNP official, in order to please the United States. It is not only us calling for the Aquino's resignation, but the families of the SAF 44 and bishops and other individuals and groups.
All right. Okay, let's start off with a question which I'll address to both of you gentlemen. We all can agree that this is a tragic incident, so when we're discussing now liability, does liability on the Mamasapano massacre reach Malacanang? You first, Senator.
Definitely not, because it's in the nature of the military structure, and in this case, the SAF, PNP SAF, which is structured also in the same way as the AFP, that the responsibility and liability falls on the shoulders of the operational commander. So if you're given the mission, you do the planning and you do the implementation of and execution of such plan, then if it fails or succeeds, it's all up to you.
So it doesn't, your position is that it doesn't reach all the way to the top, because he's the the commander-in-chief of
Yes.
the AFP and the PNP, right?
Yes, otherwise, the commander or the commander-in-chief would be reluctant in conducting operations because of the potential criminal or administrative liability. So those are the nature of military operations.
All right. Vince, sir, your thoughts on that? Do you think that, well, your position is that it has to reach Malacanang, the liability will have to reach all the way up to the top, right?
This offensive, we feel, was directed by the United States. And the United States tapped no less than the President, which in turn tapped his kabarkada, a suspended PNP official.
No, you said you feel that it's the U.S. You feel that it's the U.S. who directed it?
There is now sufficient reason to believe that this is a U.S. offensive. There is this war on terror, which Usman and Marwan are wanted terrorists. U.S. has a $7 million reward for them. And it was now revealed, it was revealed in the Inquirer and several reports that it is the U.S. that conducted the planning, together with President Aquino, perhaps, and PNP Chief Purisima. It was also revealed that last January 9, in Bahay Pangarap, the President, together with Napeñas and Purisima, held a meeting in order to discuss the Mamasapano operations. And that the President was monitoring from Zamboanga the entire operations, would indicate that he was directly responsible for it. We could agree that not in every operation the President would be held liable, but in this case, he even disregarded the PNP and the AFP commands. No one knew, except for the President, Alan Purisima, and Napeñas of the operations. Yeah. And they definitely violated the chain of command. They violated the suspension order for Alan Purisima by putting these people, by putting Purisima in charge.
So Senator, given that, as mentioned by Vencer, that the President was involved, supposedly, specifically for this plan, is there an exception to the rule that you mentioned earlier that the President is not liable?
The only exception is when the order was unlawful. For example, the President ordered the massacre of a whole community, a whole town. And the commander would follow the directive from the commander-in-chief. And whether that mission succeeds or not, it was an unlawful order to begin with. Now, let me just correct the earlier statement of Vencer here that the President violated the chain of command. There's no such thing. As commander-in-chief, you can go directly downwards. The chain of command is strictly followed upwards. So, just to cite an example, the President, as Commander-in-Chief, can order directly the PSG commander, which is under the Chief of Staff and the other chain or other senior officers of the armed forces. Right. He doesn't need to go through the Chief of Staff to order the PSG commander. So for convenience,
the chain of command is upward.
Yes, upward, and for expediency, it's his prerogative if he wants to go directly, especially for covert operations.
All right. Now, Vencer, in his first speech, the President said that serving the warrant doesn't need his permission. Do you agree that this is a police operation, he said? So he basically, he may have known about it, but it wasn't overtly his permission or his order.
Well, obviously,
what is your position on that?
Obviously, after the incident, the President is now covering up and is lying to the public. This is one more reason to press for his resignation and for, in the name of justice, accountability, and
why do you say he's lying? Why? Do you have any concrete evidence that he's lying, that he didn't know, or?
Well, obviously, he knew about the operation. He was monitoring the entire operation, and he appointed and assigned. I think the senator would agree that it would be unlawful to assign a suspended public official, such as Alan Purisima, to be the focal person, as Napeñas has testified, of the operation. And whether this is an advice or a command is playing with words, no?
Right, right.
But I think the fact that he violated the suspension order and he pursued such operation indicates that he intently And in fact, that also that he kept secret the operation. He knew about it.
Yeah, so Senator, given that the chain of command is upward lang, but what Venture is saying is that the President gave his permission, he knew all about it, and therefore, and as you said earlier, he can make the order bypass certain officers,
Yes.
and in this case, it seems that he knew. Can you at least concede, can you concede, or will you concede, that the President somehow has, because of that knowledge, would have some liability?
Okay, in answering that question, let me cite this example in the United States. When the operation against Osama bin Laden was conducted, it was approved and monitored by President Obama. Now, on the assumption that the whole operation went south, what was the liability of the President of the United States? Whether it was successful or not, he was responsible in the liberal sense. But in the legal sense, he was not liable for it.
All right, all right. We need to take a short break. Meanwhile, you can join the debate via Facebook at facebook.com/opposingviews on 9TV or tweet your thoughts at opposing_views. Use the hashtag #OVMamasapano. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Opposing Views. I'm Rod Nepomuceno. We have with us Senator Antonio Trillanes IV, and on the opposing side is Vencer Crisostomo. And the debate question is, should the President resign over the Mamasapano incident? Now, Senator Trillanes, do you think that command responsibility applies in this case?
No, as I mentioned earlier, command responsibility will only go up to the next level if the order was unlawful. But in this case, it was lawful, it was legitimate, the information was valid, and in the sense, the mission as defined by the operation, in the operation plan, was successful. So I don't see any scenario where it should go up to the level of the President. So again, as in our experience, if you're an operational commander and you're given a mission, you're given all the resources to accomplish that mission, should you fail, there's nobody to blame but you.
Okay. Now, Vencer, do you think that President PNOY defied the chain of command, by defying the chain of command, by entrusting it to an officer who's suspended, in this case, General PNP Chief Alan Purisima? What to you are the consequences of that? Do you think that betrayed the public trust, and do you think that that's a crime or it's an impeachable offense? What are your thoughts on that?
That they kept it secret from, that it was a secret operation, and it was a kabarkada operation, and that he lied about it. He said that he was merely consulting General Purisima for jargon, operational jargon, during his first speech. But now it appears that General Purisima was in charge of the operation.
So your sense is that the fact that he tapped a suspended officer
already
is a betrayal of trust?
questionable, at least. And
do you think there's a
violate
criminal liability there?
Liability. And the fact that 70 people died.
Yeah.
In the
Senator,
name of justice
do you agree with that?
accountability, I think,
The circumstances in this case are a little bit different from a situation where he just bypassed an officer. In this case, he was tapping supposedly a general, a PNP chief who was supposedly suspended. Does that change the dynamic?
Well, it would have changed if it were true, but it was not true. The President didn't appoint General Purisima to be in charge of this operation. It was very clear. General Napeñas was calling the shots. He was directing the operations from the tactical command post. He was the one who designed the plan. He was the one who executed the whole plan. So there was nothing wrong there at all.
No, there's some jargon going on between order and advice. Whether Purisima gave an order or was just providing advice. I want to get your thoughts, gentlemen. Vencer, your thoughts. You think he was just given an advice?
Sa restaurant si General Purisima.
Ayaw mag-order.
Kasi hindi maintindihan kung order o advice yung kanyang hinihingi.
Okay. So in your at least in your position, where you stand?
Palusot lang.
Palusot lang.
Palusot lang. yung testimony na Peñas indicates that he was the focal person, that he was giving orders.
Based
that
on
he was-
the Peña
He
statement.
advised na Peña not to inform the other generals about the operation, and the Peñas followed his advice.
Yeah.
And that he was exclusive, one of those exclusively attending the
Yes.
meetings together with the President Aquino.
Oo.
It's an indication that he was...
And I wanted to ask Senator, because Senator, you're
Okay.
formerly you're a military man, and when a suspended officer or a chief gives you an advice, sometimes, and we probably won't be able to appreciate it, no, the people who are not in the military, but an advice from a suspended officer, does that give a semblance of an order?
It doesn't, well, every officer in the armed forces and in the PNP would know about this. They would know what is an order and what is an advice. An order is something formal, whether it's a written directive, formal radio message, or through an operation if he's manning the tactical radios. That's one. Now, a verbal command can be given if he is part of the chain of command. If he is your direct superior, then anything that comes out of his mouth that can be construed as an order is assumed to be an order.
But in this
But
case,
if you are not part of a chain of command and an order is given, you're not supposed to follow him.
it's just an advice.
And you know that. If you follow that advice, then it becomes an order on your part and you're the ones violating the chain of command.
Okay.
So it's sad to say this, but for the non-military people, it's quite complicated, but for us who have been there or who have been part of the organization, it's very clear.
So in a nutshell, whatever, in this case, whatever PNP chief or suspended PNP chief Purisima was saying was technically not an order.
Yes, it was definitely not an order.
And therefore, there was no, I guess, violation of some law or some rules in the fact that you're tapping a suspended officer.
70 mahigit yung namatay eh. Tapos ginagawa nilang parang bobo yung taong bayan. Niloloko nila yung mamamayan. Yan yung masama eh. Malinaw na may kasalanan sila, pero naghuhugas sila ng kamay, maya't maya, nagsisinungaling sila maya't maya, at ngayon, dinadaan tayo sa pasikot-sikot.
Yun nga.
Okay, well,
yes,
ako naman, I'll take exception to that. Dahil, ito, let me just say, see, Vencer is from Anak Bayan. It's as if they really are sympathizing with the deaths of these 44 SAF troopers.
I think
Well, samantalang they are linked with the communist left, And just a couple of years ago, merong inambush na mga SAF na trainees, ang mga NPAs. So, that's, yung bang, sa akin naman, wag niyo sakyan ito. Genuine yung sentiments ng mga tao. Wag niyo sakyan, wag niyo laruin. Dahil talagang hindi rin natin papayagan yan. I will expose you guys.
On a related topic, people are asking whether pursuing Marwan and the 70 lives, or the 44 SAF lives, or the 70 lives that were lost, was worth it. Do you think, Senator, it was worth pursuing Marwan and in a way, not sacrificing, because at the time they didn't know they will be sacrificed, but at least taking the risk of those 70 lives?
Well, obviously not. Otherwise, we won't be having this conversation. We won't be having all these hearings. Because the whole nation feel that it's not worth it. Okay? And that's why we're looking for the reasons why this thing happened in the first place. So, I believe while the mission as defined was achieved, it was too high a cost.
Okay. Now, Vencer, you were saying about the U.S. intervention. No? Ano yung mga specific evidence that you can provide? No? I know there's been discussion that, of course, there's a war of terrorism, which is the general policy ng U.S. But is there direct evidence that the U.S. gave instructions on how, or that Marwan was there, and that they were giving information regarding the whereabouts of Marwan and how to go about serving the warrant?
Yung report na yung FBI ang unang pinagbigyan ng ebidensya na patay si Marwan, na hindi dumaan yan sa Philippine authorities man lamang, at sila yung nag-verify, ay malinaw na bakit sa kanila agad binigay, magbibigay na agad ng tanong yan. Yung report sa dyaryo na merong operations mismo at may headquarters sa Zamboanga yung United States, na meron silang drones na pinalipad at minomonitor yung operations na yan, ay problema. Pero kailangan sagutin yung sinasabi ni Senator Trillanes na nakikisakay yung mga nagdananawagan ng justice and accountability, yung nakikisakay yung nananawagan ng katotohanan. Insulto po yan kasi yung nananawagan ng resignation ng Pangulo, pamilya po ng sa 44 yun eh. Hindi naman po yan na kagaya ng mga traditional politicians, kagaya ni Senator Trillanes eh, na walang ibang inutupag sa Senado kung hindi bumomba at manira sa mga ibang mga politiko eh, at may ambition sa 2016. Yung mamamayan po, nagalit dahil isinubo nila sa panganib yung buhay ng MILF, despite the ceasefire, ng mga civilians na namatay, at kahit ng SAF, yung sarili nilang pulisya, ay kanilang, alam nilang may panganib, alam nila na rebel stronghold at may mga armed groups doon, pero tinuloy pa rin dahil gustong-gustong magpapogi sa United States at gustong-gustong papugiin si General Purisima.
Okay, Senator, okay, you go ahead. I'll give you the...
I was almost moved. Halos mapaniwala ako, but I'm not. Kung yung mga 44, yung relatives lang ng slain 44 SAF troopers, ang mananawagan ng resignation, I will totally respect that and understand that. But if you have groups like Anak Bayan and all the RA groups joining in the chorus, ano na yan? Yan ang mga opportunistic ang aking pananaw dyan. Dahil, teka, kita nyo, when the Vice President PNOY was being exposed for all his corrupt acts, not a word, not a whimper from these groups. You know why? Because they were aligned with each other. So yun ang magpakatotoo lang tayo rito. Wag naman.
Okay, let me shift gears a bit kasi there is, well, still related, no? We were going through social media, and the netizens there's a lot of people who are calling for the resignation. And again, this is just an observation. I think we've seen it. A lot of people are posting their views. Do you think that that's something that the president should even consider, given that your position is that there's no legal liability, but maybe perhaps out of delicadeza and perhaps just to show that he sympathizes with what happened. Do you think that this is something that he should even consider?
Definitely not. And give this country to Vice President Binay. That's the worst thing that he would ever do to this country. And I won't allow that. Definitely I won't allow that to happen. But those groups allied with the Vice President would welcome that. And that's their agenda, actually. So I won't even consider that.
That's right. Ikaw, kasi yung position mo nga is for President Aquino to resign. So, ang mangyari nun, si Vice President mag-take
To say that the family is calling for justice, that the people calling for accountability is merely doing that in order to support the presidency of Binay, another traditional politician, is false, is a lie, and is an obvious tactic to defend the president.
But he will benefit, diba? The Vice President will benefit from your calls for his resignation.
He is the constitutional succession, but it is not the only way to replace Aquino. If Aquino resigns via people power, the people can form a transition government in order to pave the way for elections, not necessarily including traditional politicians, but reputable individuals which can institute genuine change in the
Which
nation.
will now play with the communist agenda.
Ang problema po, walang makita ang problema, yung accountability and justice. Ang problema, hindi natin makita yung kasalanan ni President Aquino at obvious naman.
So, do you feel ba empty words yung sinasabi ni President Aquino na ako'y ama ng bayan and namatayan ako ng anak and everything? Now, before you answer that, we need to take a short break. Meanwhile, you can join the debate via Facebook at facebook.com/opposingviews on 9TV or tweet your thoughts at opposingviews and use the hashtag OB Mamasapano. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Opposing Views. I'm Rod Nepomuceno. Still with us, Senator Antonio Trillanes IV and Vencer Crisostomo. And our question for tonight, should President Aquino resign over the Mamasapano massacre? Now, Senator Trillanes, given that what happened is during a time when the Bangsamoro law is hanging in the balance, do you think that this massacre, this incident, should be an excuse to stall the BBL, the Bangsamoro Basic Law, and maybe perhaps suspend the deliberations on the law during the investigations?
I think it's not an excuse. It's a real obstacle. And for some lawmakers, they can't possibly move beyond the, or they can't move until that obstacle is removed. And what is that obstacle is the calls for justice, transparency, and they want to know from the side of the MILF what's the accountability on their end. So it's very real.
Very real. And do you think that the MILF is sincere when it comes to the peace talks?
Let's just say that they're possibly a good majority of their members are sincere, but there are some who are ideological hardliners who may not want this peace process to succeed at all.
And the fact that there's such a division, you think then we can probably, I guess not assume that, but rather it would seem that the senators are moving towards not supporting the BBL?
Well, that's the situation now because of this incident. And it's quite providential because right now, everybody's forced to take a hard look at this.
Vencer, your thoughts on the tong BBL? No? You think that it should even proceed, yung deliberations on the law, or we should stop altogether?
In general, the peace talks should proceed. Should address the roots of the armed conflict in Mindanao. We feel also that one part of accountability of the President was pursuing the operation despite the ongoing peace negotiations and ceasefire with the MILF.
Yeah.
So we should also question that.
Let's get to that. You feel that the President trespassed or at least violated the peace agreement or the peace talks?
Well, there was a ceasefire mechanism and there's an ongoing peace negotiations. Despite that, they proceeded with the operations into rebel territory. So there should be an inquiry also on the accountability of the President in that instance.
Okay. Senator, you think that there was a violation here of the peace agreement?
None, because as we found out during the investigation, the President himself directed General Peñas to do the lateral coordinations, which even according to the Oplan Exodus of General Peñas, he was supposed to do. He was supposed to inform the CCCH, the ADJAG, the 6th Infantry Division, and the 1st Mechanized Brigade, but he did not, based on his judgment call. So in this case, the President made sure that the mechanisms are supposed to be followed, and even without that, the Mamasapano, or the area where the incident happened, is outside of the declared MILF territories. Yeah.
So in this case,
there's no need to coordinate with them.
Okay. Now let's shift gears a bit and discuss the ongoing Mamasapano probe. Of course, you're kind of in it, so I guess you have your own thoughts. I'll ask you, and then I'll ask Vencer. What are your thoughts on the ongoing Mamasapano probes? And are you satisfied with the pace and perhaps the direction that it's taking?
Yes, definitely. I believe we have exhausted a lot and we have extracted so much information. Even the public right now has a clearer picture of the whole incident. And that would enable them to make informed decisions or informed opinions. And that will clear the air of the propaganda, the insinuations, and the speculations. So I'm really satisfied, and it helped also that Chairman Iqbal attended yesterday's hearing to at least present the side of the MLF.
Vencer, Your thoughts on the ongoing Mamasapano probes? There's several going on. There's House of Representatives, of course, Senate, and I think they're thinking of forming a commission. No?
We feel there's an effort to airbrush the role of President Aquino and to save General Purisima, the fact that they are lying to the senators, lying to the public regarding their participation in the incident, in the offensive. And there's also an airbrushing of the role of the United States. We are asking the senators and we ask those investigating, the investigating bodies why they are not looking into the role of the U.S. and why there is a need for executive privilege. And we feel that there is a cover-up.
They're avoiding certain questions.
And we feel that there's a lot more questions, especially about the role that the President played in the operations. So,
in your mind, do you think the President should appear in the hearings? And I'll ask the Senator that same question.
if they could summon the Vice President to the Senate, why
Vice
not the
President?
President?
Okay.
Or
All right. Oh, you're saying if they could summon the Vice President? why not
They
the
should summon the President, and then the President should voluntarily appear and explain himself. Better yet, we can form a truth commission or a truth body, truth council, and the President has to explain.
Do you think it's needed? Do you think it's needed though, or it's something that's ideal but not
Ang
necessary?
problema, mahirap hanapin yung katotohanan kung ano nangyari hanggat nakaupo si Presidente, di ba? That's also a cost of the President not resigning. Now, we cannot summon the President, who is directly involved in the operations, to relay what he knows about the operations. So, in order to have truth and accountability, kailangan mag-step down the President.
Right. Senator, do you think that the President owes I know he's made several statements, but do you think that he owes it to the public to be involved in the hearings and appear in the I guess perhaps the fact-finding probes?
I believe it's not necessary at this point dahil na sagot na ni General Napeñas yung kailangan sagutin. Siya yung binigyan ng mission eh. Maliwanag kasi yun eh. Binigyan siya ng mission, nagkaroon ng aberya, it turned into a tragedy of national proportions. But hindi niya pwedeng ipasa kasi sa taas suddenly pagka nagkamali na, papasa, ikaw may kasalanan sa taas. It doesn't work that way.
Kasi inutusan mo ako.
Yes.
So he can't even say, inutusan mo ako, therefore ikaw may kasalanan.
It doesn't work that way. Kaya ganito ang takbo, ang setup niyan. So that, or in fact, kaya nga nag-a-appoint ng mga competent commanders because it is presumed that you're qualified, you know what to do, you're supposed to be skilled enough to craft a plan that will accomplish the mission with minimum loss of life.
Maraming kailangan paliwanag ang Presidente. Anong nangyari noong January 9 sa Bahay Pangarap? Nung nag-meeting sila ni General Purisima, ni Napeñas, anong pinag-usapan? Ibig sabihin, nagplano sila doon. Ano yung sinasabi ng Presidente kahapon? Sinasabi nila, walang nag-inform sa Presidente tungkol sa Mamasapano until afternoon, 5 p.m. So they were saying that the President did not know anything about the incident, about what was happening until 5 p.m. Pero doon sa kanyang video, doon sa SAF, doon in front of the
Ito ba the one in Zamboanga?
No, the speech he made, the pep talk he made. He said that as early as the morning of the 25th, he was already informed of what was happening.
Well, we have information, yes.
Kuha ko lang, I think there's no inconsistency there. The resource persons were being asked who among them informed the President. None of them did, and probably that's the truth, because the President already knew. It was the wrong question. You cannot fault the resource persons for answering a wrong question. Alam na ni Presidente, bakit mo ba i-inform? So none of them did.
Is it really, was he really in Zamboanga for the Mamasapano operation? Is that
As far as the testimonies are concerned, it was confirmed that he was
and you
in
think
Zamboanga
that
to
is,
monitor.
the fact that he was there for the Mamasapano operation, that fact alone makes this a unique situation compared to a general order given by the President
And,
for a particular operation?
And we have to know what the President did when he was informed, who informed him,
How deep involved he was.
how he knew about the
Yeah.
operation, and what were the orders given.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of explaining to do.
Senator,
And,
kasi I wanted to ask this, no? This is probably a military question as well, no? In what instance can the president be held legally liable for something like this? Let's say if he was very much involved in a particular operation, talagang really involved, not just overseeing, but particularly in the planning of the whole thing. Is there any situation at all, any particular circumstance where the president, being the commander-in-chief, will be legally liable, and perhaps administratively liable?
If he acted as the operational commander, then the
sorry.
responsibility and the liability falls on his shoulders.
If he acted as the
Operational commander. If he said, okay, I'll do the planning, I'll give
specific instructions,
I'll man the
Alright.
operation center, then he's the one
Do
responsible.
you feel then, sir, that he was, in effect, the operations commander in this case? In which case, yun ang basehan ng position mo?
well, not only that, but whether or not he was, he is still accountable and responsible, and he has to be taken to explain for that.
All right. Okay, we need to take a short break. Don't go away. When we come back, the final points of our guests and also the results of our online poll. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Still Opposing Views. I'm Rod Nepomuceno. Still with us, Senator Antonio Trillanes IV and Vencer Crisostomo of Anakbayan. And our debate question for tonight, should President Aquino resign over the Mamasapano massacre? Now, the President has made an impassioned speech. I guess there were several times that he made a speech. No? And I think the latest one was in no unspecific terms. So talagang very specific siya when he said that I am the father of the nation, and his 44 SAF members who died are my children, and parang dala ko to until the end of my term and until the rest of his life. Is that not enough for you, Vencer, in shouldering responsibility? So you feel that it still has to lead to resignation? Because you can have a president who makes mistakes, and he made a mistake. But do you feel that in this situation, hindi enough yun in taking responsibility? And he'll take a political hit for sure. I mean, whoever he annoys.
Ang problema, after niya magsabihin yun, sinabi niya na BFF sila ni Purisima, at malungkot siya, mas impassioned siya nung sinabi niya na malungkot siya na papaalisin niya si Purisima. At mukhang ang tak nila ay mag-cover up at magsinungaling sa taong bayan ulit para pagtakpan yung kanilang pagkakamali. Kinakailangan may pananagutan at hindi sapat yung ganong mga papogi para makamit natin yung hustisya saka yung
You're saying cover up.
accountability.
Senator, do you feel that they've been evasive? Itong mga officers sila, the ones who have testified so far in the Senate, yung mga officers. Do you think that they've been evasive and because of a cover up, if you will? Parang ini-airbrush nga, as the term of Vencer, to borrow a term of Vencer, are they airbrushing the facts?
Well, definitely not. And the public saw that. All the senators with different political persuasions were free to scrutinize and dissect the minds of all these resource persons, and nobody flinched. They saw it as it is. They said it as it is, to the point that they're even finger pointing to one another, and it's sad that they had to do that, but that's how transparent they were. So I totally disagree.
Okay. Now, the Anti-Terror Council, well, during the questioning of Senator Miriam, we found out that the Anti-Terror Council was not informed. Now, do you think that the fact that the Anti-Terror Council was not informed leads to a betrayal of trust because it effectively provided, I guess, undue risk to our SAF men?
Oh, well, I don't agree at all, because this is a covert operation, and again, it was a judgment call of the operatives that the success of the mission hinged on the operational security. And they were right in that regard, up to the point that they got Marwan. But things went south after that, during the extraction point. Yeah.
Okay. Venture, your thoughts, and the fact that they didn't coordinate with the Anti-Terror Council, you think that's enough? Again, that
They
shows...
did not coordinate with anybody
they-
except for themselves who planned the action.
And you
It was a
feel
secret
that-
action, kabarkada action.
Ang tingin mo doon is, it's really a betrayal of trust, and you think that's impeachable, perhaps?
It is up to the senators and the lawmakers to determine that, I think, and the courts. But I should agree with Senator Santiago when she said that definitely there has to be some accountability, and that criminal liability is upon the president when he ordered the operation. One more thing also that we feel is important. It is insulting to say that this is a successful operation. It's obviously a spin. More than 70 people dead, and we are not even sure if Marwan is really dead. He was declared dead in 2012, and he's dead now. Mark 2 na nga daw yan, kasi Mark 3 na yung susunod, Mark 4. And the FBI was the sole source of the information.
Okay.
So,
So do you think that he should be impeached or he should resign? Do you think that there's at least enough support for an impeachment?
It is what is happening now is enough reason for the president to have a little decency and resign, to call for, it is not only our group, but the families of the SAF, the bishops, and the UP professors calling for his resignation. He can be forced to resign by people power. We can have mass demonstrations and campus actions. Most especially if they keep on covering up and lying to the public. It is not a far-fetched possibility that people power will be developing again soon.
All right. Now, let me ask you, gentlemen, how do you think this will pan out? How do you think this will end? Senator, how do you think this will all roll and, I guess, conclude, if you will?
Well, to be honest, I really don't know. It's up to the president at this point. He should master every ounce of leadership in his body to get him out of this mess. So, at this point in time, we need a leader. And
Is there a chance, though, you think that he might resign out of decency, as Spencer would say? You think that's even a possibility?
that's unpatriotic for him to do that, and I would advise against it. And I don't think really he's considering it. Definitely not. So probably it's in the dreams of the
Some sectors.
pro-Binay groups. So yeah.
Vencer, how do you think this will play out? Anong tingin mong mangyayari? I mean, of course, we don't know, no? Everything is still so fluid, but in your mind,
We're
how does this work
hoping
out?
that more people will come out and tell the truth, fight for justice and accountability. We are inviting other sectors and even senators to stand for truth and accountability and call on the president to have the decency to resign and institute genuine change in the country.
No, Vencer, ito, I guess practicality question na lang to. I mean, it's 1 year to go, right? We're having the elections next year in May. It's now in Feb. It's practically 1 year in 2 months now. Why do you think we should even call for a resignation or perhaps even consider the impeachment part?
Kasi ganyan din naman yung sinabi ng mga nakaraang buwan eh. Konti na lang, hintayin na lang natin, pero may 70 namatay. At mayroong operasyon na direktang pinangasiwaan ng Pangulo. So, hindi natin alam kung ano pa ang pwedeng gawin ng Pangulo sa mga susunod, ano pang ibang operasyon yung nilihim ng Pangulo sa atin. Ano pa yung mga ginagawa nila ni General Purisima na hindi nalalaman ng publiko. At ilan pa yung mamamatay sa mga susunod na araw, sa susunod na buwan, kahit sa susunod na taon under a leadership like this. So, palagay ko, hindi katanggap-tanggap na
Yung rason na yun, one year to go.
na konti na 1 year, matagal pa yan eh. At hindi lang din naman ito yung pagkakataon na duguan ng kamay ng Pangulo. Merong Yolanda na meron ding pananagutan ng Pangulo sa mga namatay. Merong DAP na na-declare na unconstitutional. At merong mga patakaran ng pagtataas ng presyo, pagbaba ng sahod ng mga manggagawa na nagpapahirap lalo sa mamamayan. So, Ano pa yung hihintayin pa ba natin na meron pang sumunod na ganitong mangyari bago tayo sumingil ng accountability? Hayaan nating impunity yung maghari sa ating bansa.
Now, Senator, if PNOY will not resign, what can he do? I know you said he has to call every ounce of his leadership, but maybe more specifically, how do you, if he will not resign, and looks like in your position, I think you're saying that it's highly unlikely. What do you think should he do in this situation?
Well, first things first, they need to get their acts together, particularly in the security sector. This should not happen again. How do they do that? You need to set new standard operating procedures to make sure that the coordinating mechanisms are in place, even as far as government forces are concerned. You may or may not coordinate with the MILF depending on your judgment, but as far as government agencies, they should be well coordinated. So that's first. And then moving forward, he should lead the nation. He should, as you mentioned, it's just a year left to go. He should just lead the country towards a clean and honest elections that would lead to a successful transition of power.
All right. Okay, now we just have enough time for final words, Senator and Vencer. So Vencer, you first. Final words to our viewers regarding this issue who medyo kati sila, no? Trying to find out more information, getting more information. Hopefully this episode has helped. But perhaps a message to our viewers.
Malinaw po na si Presidente Aquino sa utos ng Estados Unidos ay lumabag at nagtaksil sa taong bayan sa pag-aatas ng operasyon na ito, dugaan ang kanyang kamay, at kinakailangan may pananagutan dito, kinakailangan may hustisya at maaring itulak ng taong bayan itong hustisya na ito sa pagkilos, pagpapababa sa Pangulo at pagtitindig ng isang transisyong gobyerno na maaring maghahanda para sa halalan at magkakaroon ng pananagutan. Ang tanong siguro sa atin, hayaan pa ba natin meron pang mamatay ulit sa ilalim ng Pangulong ito? At tatanungin tayo ng ating mga anak, tatanungin tayo ng kinabukasang henerasyon, noong nagsisinungaling ang Pangulo, noong namatay ang 70 katao, ano ang ginawa ninyo? Pinagtanggol niyo ba yon? O nilabanan ninyo? O sumigaw kayo ng hustisya? O nagsabi kayo o naniwala kayo sa mga nanloloko, saka mga nanlilito doon sa issue? O kayo ay lumaban? O kayo ay tumindig para sa katotohanan at katarungan? Palagay ko, merong February 25 ay anniversary ng People Power at nananawagan kami na lumabas ang taong bayan, mag-human chain mula Krame hanggang sa EDSA Monument para sa katarungan at para sa tunay na pagbabago.
Okay, thank you very much, Vencer Crisostomo of Anakbayan. Senator Trillanes, your final words to our viewers?
We're in the midst of this propaganda war being waged by the political forces against the president. And I warn the public to be more discerning because these groups will ride on and even take advantage of the genuine sympathies of the relatives of the slain SAF personnel just to meet their own political agenda. Now, I understand why they're doing this, but I believe that their political objective is detrimental to the interests of the country. So, for as long as I can, I'm going to oppose it.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator Trillanes. Thank you again to our guests, Senator Antonio Trillanes IV and Vencer Crisostomo of Anakbayan. Maraming salamat po, gentlemen. Now, let's see the results of our online poll. We asked, should the president resign over the Mamasapano massacre? Those who answered yes, he should resign, 40%, and those who answered no, 60%. And that's our opposing views for tonight. Tune in again next week for another bold and engaging discussion of today's most relevant issues. I'm Rod de Pomaceno. Good night. God bless. Happy weekend.